Hey there, everyone. Welcome to A Slice of Life with Kelly and Jon. Today we have one of our very favorite guests, and we're excited. We wanted to have him on because he's been nominated for more awards. Throughout his history, he's won many and been nominated many times. And I saw it on the internet and got excited and said, we got to hear more about this. So Bobby Messano is back with us. You've got a new album out.
Yep.
That's where the story starts. Can you show us your cover, your album?
Oh,
We're just
sure.
showing.
There you go.
Can you imagine if I had been doing interviews? There you go. That's the front. Look, and
Nice.
that's the back.
Aw.
And I wasn't going to do CDs, and all of these people wanted CDs, and then they didn't buy them when I did them. So yeah, I'd say like 60, 70 people are like, we're going to buy a CD, and then nobody buys them. So which is what happens these days. Nobody buys anything. So, but yeah, I was it's funny. I was thinking because I think I told you guys I'm not really, you know, I'm actually starting to feel old, and I hate that.
Mm.
Um, but I'm not doing shows really. I'm not going to do many shows. I mean, I'm doing a private show in a couple of weeks in New Jersey, but I was sitting there thinking, going, why don't I really want to do shows? Well, first off, I mean, my knees are like a mess because of a car accident. And, it's tough to get around. And I put all the pieces together of why, and you will understand this completely, Jon, why I don't want to do shows. Okay. I've played for like millions of people. So, okay, that's great. I've played thousands and thousands of shows in probably, I don't know, 25, 30 countries and all over the United States since 1976, right? And the things I came down to the most were I don't want to carry equipment anymore because I hate it. And I got a Negril tank top on and a pair of shorts. Nobody understands that when you're doing shows, even when I was like dumbing down and slumming stuff and you have to buy clothes to do shows. And I have a closet filled with stage clothes that I don't want to wear anymore. I mean, I had like 30 pair of boots, and I don't want to wear them anymore. So I, gave them away. And it's like, so it's so much easier to not do anything.
Well,
Yeah.
let me just back you up to a degree there.
Mhm.
I had no idea you were going to go in this direction,
Okay.
but I will. Yeah, once we were in clubs,
Yep.
playing the Jersey clubs, you and
Yep.
I, we were all at the same time, and we had roadies.
We had roadies.
We had roadies, and it wasn't, just carrying our guitars and our amps. Most of the time, we carried our own guitars.
Yeah.
Your Stratocaster, your Les Paul, or whatever it might have
Nope.
been that you were schlepping. And
Did we
but
lock
it
up?
was always the roadies who brought the amps, set the amps up, and not just the amps. Usually, the voice of the theater sound system, the
Oh
PA
yeah.
system that we carried, and the 12-track board or the 12-channel board, mixing board that the sound guy had to come with. So that was all part of that, and it was great. At the end of the night, I packed up my guitars. Well, usually, again, we're talking about the club scene of the early to mid 70s,
Yeah.
where the bands didn't play for 45 minutes and leave. You played for 6 hours, and then you played there for 5 consecutive nights, Wednesday night to Sunday night,
Oh, wow.
and then the roadies packed everything up, and then on Wednesday, you showed up again at some other club and were there for 5 nights. And
Yeah.
and that's what, I mean, those were the great days. But then later on, when I sort of got out of it, just like you, and would get together with the guys, I had to schlep that. Granted, what wasn't a Ampeg V4
Right,
with two stacks. It might have been a Fender reverb or something like that.
right.
Your guitar case, you had to schlep them. You had to do all that stuff. I sort of get that. Also, we had when you're talking about your clothes, there was one thing about at least the band that I was in, Diamond Jim. Okay, we had a rule. Whenever you got up on stage, you had to look better than the best dressed person in the audience. Now, fortunately, we're talking about mostly people in jeans and
Right, right.
t-shirts and stuff like that. But we had to look better. And that was always the clothes that we had to go out and get. And so I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. Well,
That you don't want to have to go through that now.
I mean, with me, I moved up quicker. I was only in the club scene for a little while, and
Right.
and
Right.
and then I moved into playing
Arenas.
playing coliseums and playing
Yeah.
theaters and playing stadiums and all that stuff. But like when I was in Toronto, I had clothes made for me and shoes made for me.
Right. Right.
But and you had to look sort of cool. And then I got to the point like, I mean, I was doing so many shows when I changed over to doing, the contemporary blues thing. I'd have a year where I'd wear suits. I'd have a year where I would just sit on a chair and wear a pair of jeans and a t-shirt. And now I'm like, I don't care. It's like what comes out of my fingers and what I'm singing is much more important than looking cool because I look like Ben Franklin. It's like I don't I don't care what
Why don't
I'm
you
wearing.
why don't you put that picture in the back of the CD up again
Okay. And
and show everybody because what you're doing right now is not Ben Franklin.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. There you go.
Well, it's
Okay.
part
and
of the rock star
Yeah,
persona, the leather and the chain,
absolutely.
whatever the jewelry and all that.
yeah,
The
but
So
muscles.
okay, so
okay.
tell us about the award
Yeah,
and what you
what is
want
it?
to
World
do.
Entertainment Awards. I pulled it up and was
Yeah.
looking at it.
Oh yeah. It's
So let's
in
put that.
January in LA. We won it last year for Best Americana Album with Music and Other Sundries, which actually surprised the crap out of us. And now this year it's up for Best Blues Album and Best Blues Song with Jump, Kelly. Um, and
Love that song.
and it's like Jeff always just says it's like going to the prom, but it's nice to get them. Um, and I'm starting, all day I've been putting together Word files and a SoundCloud and all this other stuff because the Grammy stuff starts like now. And, you know, this is going to be my final solo album. I mean, I have people that don't want me to say that, but I've done 13. How many am I supposed to do? I don't go out like Walter Trout. I'm not on the road all the time. I mean, he's making mucho bucks. A lot of people are, but most people are dying on the road. If I don't want to do it, I'll go out of the country. That's different. I'll play out of the country anywhere, but I'm just not going to play here anymore because it's nobody cares. I mean, and so, and I've always, the one thing that I've always wanted in my life was not a Grammy win, just to get into the top 5. I have been, what it is people don't realize what happens. The Grammy organization gets tens of thousands of records. And then all these people listen to it. They have committees and then people, they weed them out. It moves to the next thing. It goes to this. I mean, I finished submitting about a month ago. And about 5 days after I submitted, I got a call from Grammy in LA and they said, well, we're going to talk to you because you put it in for best rock album and you put it in for best contemporary blues album, and you can't do that anymore. We changed the rule on that. You can only be in for one. And I went, well, best contemporary blues for sure, So, so they listen and they go through everything, and the hedgehog willing, I will be again in the first round the on the Grammy first round ballot, which means that it went from about 1,000 blues albums to maybe 50 or 80 or something, which is fantastic. Right. And years ago, 10, 15 years ago, when you got to that round, you could say you were Grammy nominated. Now you can't. They will not allow it, So, and I've been in that round, I swear, I think it's somewhere over 60 times in 8 or 9 categories. I am Susan Lucci. And,
yeah.
And I've never made that top round. All right, the record.
Okay.
We want to know.
The CD. Oh, well, who played on it? Who did you write everything? What, where was it recorded?
No, I mean, we did it in 3 different spots. My road band, Joey Perfumi from Boston, played on it. And Mike Rock, who's absolutely one of the best bass players I have ever known in my life, who I actually met in Belgium. Wow. He was my bass player on my 2018 European tour. And he's from here. He's from Columbus, Ohio. Fantastic. And we did it at my producer, Jeff Wilborn's new studio in Belleville, Wisconsin. We were the guinea pigs. There was still stuff hanging in. There was stuff all over the floors and everything. And our engineer from Nashville, Adam Taylor, came in from Nashville, and he's unbelievable. He's like you were an audiophile. We've talked about the tapes and you know what I mean. And Adam is one of those guys that's like, he's like probably 40 years old, maybe. And he can slice and dice a 2-inch, and he could take Pro Tools and edit like nobody I have ever seen. And he's been up for like 3 Grammy Awards for bluegrass stuff. And he does all our records. So, Jeff was producing, and we did the basics and a couple of overdubs there. And then everybody went home. We were actually on the road. Then I moved down here, and then I flew back in February in a snowstorm. And they didn't have the heat in the studio yet. So I sang Frozen. No, actually, I did a couple of vocals, but I did Frozen guitars for 3 days.
Frozen guitars. That should be how it's listed on the.
I had gloves on. It was so cold. I'm breathing. It's icicles are coming out. But we did most of the guitar. We did 90% of the guitars, and we had done some of the first part. And then I came back to Wilmington, and I did the rest of the vocals here. And I did all the background vocals here. And then I did 1 guitar solo here in Wilmington. And then what it does is we go into this process where it goes to Adam. I said tracks are now, you call them stems now, because that's the files. So all the files went to Adam, and then Adam would sort through everything, hundreds of files, and put a song together. Oh, wow. And then start sending rough mixes. And he would send it to me, he would send it to Jeff, and then we'd have notes. We'd have a Google, a notepad, and we go over stuff. And then when we finally got to the final mix, which were the first 2 were Trainwreck and Jump, we were going to release them on my birthday as singles. So he mastered them, and then we put them up, and they came out. And that's the way, it's a lot more reasonable, but we still go into the studio where most people don't, and I've done that before. I send it out for drums, but, and it costs $multi-$1,000 for us to do a record still.
Oh, yeah.
Because we do it old school. You know what I mean? We're not like cutting and pasting, here's a good vocal. Let's take this line and put it here, We don't do that. And also, most of the records we still do on 2-inch tape. This one we didn't, because we were having problems with one of the tracks. So, but it depends on where we're doing it. So,
I give you all the credit in the world for doing it on tape.
Oh, yeah. There's Kellie, it's so there's such a huge difference in hearing
But
what tape sounds like.
are you limited to tracks, number
Yeah,
of tracks?
we're limited to 24. If we have like
Yeah,
usually you
two
have one set.
inches. Yeah, two
Yeah, but
inches.
the thing is then you dump them to Pro Tools.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
See what
All
I
right.
mean? So if you don't want to take the drums and make them digital, we can leave the drum tracks on the 2 inch and then take the other stuff and do them on Pro Tools and go back and forth with them.
All
So
right.
you're getting the best. And the software is so good now. There's this, analog digital summing bus where you can take them and it'll actually make it analog again. It's very cool, very convenient. But it's a really involved process if you do it correctly. It's like, and there are still a lot of bands that do that. Juanita, my friend, has the studio in Nashville, and there are bands in there all the time, and they cut on 2 inch. They do everything live. It's Robert Plant and Allison, do it like that. So it's really cool. But taking the best of both worlds. But
Hmm.
there are so many people that don't. AI is now making tracks. So it's really bad. I know we were talking about that last time, right, Kelly?
Yeah, yeah,
I am hearing cover songs completely AI now, like I was telling you.
yeah.
Yep.
Well, and you said you can tell the difference. I don't think I would know the difference.
Oh, you can. Well, I could tell
Oh,
the difference. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I think you could.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
I think
can.
so.
Yeah.
Huh.
But yeah, so it's a really involved process. It's still fun. I still love making records, and I'm not going to stop making records. I'm just not going to really go out and kill myself playing live unless I can get the money I can
Well,
get out
yeah,
overseas.
getting back to that also, again, going back to when we did it,
Yeah.
agents sought you out, agents did all the work. They
Yep.
contacted the promoters or the
Yeah.
clubs, and they got you the job so that you would work for those 5 nights.
Right.
They got their 10%, and everybody was happy. Now, agents don't want to. They don't want to do anything. They don't want to make phone calls. They don't want to. You have to literally get the job, and they'll get you the deal. Well, maybe if you get your own deal.
I know.
So,
It's like, uh, Paul Lloyd he sort of manages me. We're good, really good friends.
right.
He's a really good guy. He's helped me through a lot of stuff, and he is the general manager at Bethel Woods. He runs the place. It's 18,000 seats, and, we talk about it all the time. There's this thing now, and it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse because clubs and venues, and truthfully, this you'll understand also. I don't want to play clubs anymore. I maybe one or two here and there, maybe like the one I did in Bangkok that had 1,000 people and there was a line around the block. That's different. I started in clubs in North Bergen, New Jersey, when my father had a bar there. And he would throw me on the stage and say, "Come on, Bobby, play guitar," And I was 14 years old, and I that's 57 years ago. I mean, good for Buddy Guy for falling off the stage and like trying to do. Good for some of these other guys. I don't want to do it. I'm tired of it. And then I go and see all my friends, and I'm really good friends with Steve Lukather. I go to see them, and they're selling out 20,000 seaters, and he's in a bus and everything, and he's tired. He's back doing Ringo for the next month or two. They fly everywhere, and he's tired. He's tired. You know, it takes it. I have a friend who will remain nameless. He's one of the most known drummers in the entire world. He won Modern Drummers Best Drummer of the Year so many times they had to take him out of the running.
Ooh.
This guy is brilliant, and he told me 2 weeks ago that he's not going to play anymore because he gets no joy. It's not any fun for him, and the road has basically sucked the life out of him. And he lost his wife 20 years ago, and he lost his mom and dad in the last 5 or 10 years. So he was taking care of them, and he just said, "I can't do it. There's nothing there that
Uh,
makes me happy." You know.
I'm just to stay on that same thing. I probably told you, Bobby, about this. And again, a drummer, world famous, played
Oh
with
yeah. Okay.
The best of the best. You know who
Yep,
I'm talking
I know
about.
who you're talking about.
Okay, so I'm friends of his for decades,
Hmm.
and I happened to have been in Florida about 3 years ago, and I posted a picture on Facebook, that I was in Florida, and he saw it, and he called me, and he goes, "Oh, you're in Florida. We just moved down to Florida. Why don't you? Where are you?" And I was somewhere up around, oh my gosh, on the Atlantic coast somewhere.
Yeah,
It's all right. And he
yeah.
goes, "Okay, okay, I'm here." And we met. We decided, okay, we'll meet in the middle and let's have coffee. Okay, we get there. Now, I loved these guys since the 60s. I knew them personally since
Yep.
the 70s.
Me too. Yep.
Became excellent friends with them in the 2000s. Um, and we used to get together and we're having coffee and we're having this conversation and we're talking about things I don't know the best way to say this, but I sat there and I said to him, I'm really sort of bummed. He goes, "Why?" I go, we used to talk about the groupies and the other crazy things we did back in the 80s and 70s and when we were playing in groups and stuff like that. And we used to have great stories. You talked about Led Zeppelin and Jimi
Hmm.
Hendrix and all that. And now we're talking about what cholesterol medication you're on. And we're talking, I needed to get a rotator cuff operation, and yeah, and I was like, so it just changed the dynamic of everything. Is like, like rock and roll gods, and we used to have these great conversations about the wildness of things that took place on the road. Here we are down in Florida, of all places,
Right.
talking
And
about,
yeah,
what medication that we're on for our
yeah,
cholesterol or low blood pressure or some crap.
and I found a great neuropathy cream. It's like that's a far
Oh my gosh.
cry.
Oh my
That's
gosh. That's
that's a far.
hysterical.
I know it's a far cry from getting duct taped on a stage by the crew from Night Ranger and thrown into the middle of a coliseum where my arms and legs are duct taped with Brad Gillis behind my amps with the amps on fire playing like Mary Had a Little Lamb and a bunch of TV theme songs.
Okay,
You know,
weren't those the good old days, Bobby?
yes. Yeah, I mean,
They
of
were.
course. Last night of a tour, having fish coming over your amp and hitting you in the head on stage, or, yeah, I know. It's like now it's like, oh, I got to carry an acoustic guitar into a venue. Oh, and you want to know something? And Kelly, you're going to talk now, but the thing is that like after doing Thailand in January, oh my God, I mean, the airport, they're airport cities. I mean, it took me 2 hours to get between gates in almost every airport I was in, maybe 3 hours. And I'm carrying a guitar and I'm like carrying a bag. I'm like rolling along. Hey, can I get one of those carts? No, you needed to order it like a month ago.
Oh, geez.
Oh, great. Kelly, what do you got?
No, I mean, I think that's all fascinating, and that's why a lot of rock stars write books because,
Yeah.
it's reliving your youth, your life, your successes, and then also sharing it with other people because I think people love to hear those stories of, rock and roll fun on the road, being on the road. I can imagine that it gets old. I don't like to travel at all myself. I'm not a traveler, so I can imagine that
Yeah.
alone gets old and going from city to city. It's exciting, but
See, I always used to love that though. That was one of my favorite things. I love waking up in a hotel and I
yeah.
love getting up on a tour bus. I mean, I don't love flying, but like this year alone, I flew 40,000 miles,
Oh, geez.
and yeah, I know I've traveled, I've driven 20 or 30 and I've flown 40,
Well,
and
Well,
Good.
tell us, you said that you're going to be doing some event up in Jersey. So,
Yeah, it's just
tell us about that.
it's a private event for a friend of mine who I've known for many, many, many years. It's actually his reunion, and I did it a couple of years ago, and they were really nice. And I'm just going to go up and do the one show, but I've got I haven't seen anybody in the Northeast in a while.
Is it anywhere near me?
No, it's Rutherford,
Oh, it's where?
but Rutherford.
Well, that's
No, no,
Rutherford.
but here's the thing. I might be going to the Pony on the 26th, which is not too far from you.
No, no.
And a friend of mine,
I mean, come on. Rutherford's only about 50 miles away.
yeah,
I
but the
would do
thing
that.
is I've got to go to Boston. I have a storage. That's the other thing. Because I've lived so many places, I have like storage places like all over the friggin' country. So I have a storage place in Boston that I haven't seen in a year. I'm going to go close that out and bring the stuff back to North Carolina. And it's like, because I like this house, it's nice, I'm going to stay here a little while. And yeah, but I'm going to stay a little bit, I think. I'll keep you posted on that. But if I go to the Pony, I'm going to go see the watch.
All right, but I mean, I'd come up and we can have lunch or dinner whenever you're not at this gathering.
Well, how close are you to deal?
20 minutes, 15,
Okay.
20 minutes.
A friend of mine I did a lot of work with him in the 80s. He was an engineer guy and a writer. So I talked to him the other day. I might go see him and deal. So we'll talk about it. But
Okay.
Kelly, ask me questions.
Well, back to the awards because I
Yeah.
think I'm curious, and I think probably people are curious. So with the Grammys, the process. So you've submitted your songs, your
Yeah.
album, then they narrow it down to 50 to 80. And then from there, who votes? How do you get people to listen to the music and vote?
Well, and that's the main problem. Well, it's not even necessarily the main problem, but November 7th, we will get the first round ballots. Okay. So, and from that point on, you have 3 weeks to vote, and Grammy members vote. And there's 14,000 Grammy members, I think.
Okay.
And they've changed all the rules, and I don't want to talk about it, but you're only allowed to vote now, I think, in 3 categories or something. So you have to be very finite. Before I would have somebody in children's that had an amazing record and I'd vote for them. But now, then that takes me out of the Americana category, which has 40 categories, and a bunch of my friends are in it, and I'm in it. And you're supposed to listen to everything. And to listen to everything, it would take you, I don't know, 2-3 years, maybe.
Oh,
So you have to go through things, and you have to say, okay, would I be interested in this, or just listen to a track at a time, like an A&R person.
And right, it's exactly.
Which is not fair. Because if you listen to one track, there might be 13 tracks that are worse or better, So it's just a really involved thing. And you do, even though you're not supposed to, you talk to your friends and you look at who's up, and then you decide your categories, and then you try to be as fair as you can. I don't just vote for people because they're in it. I listen to who I think I want to vote for. And and with some of them, I mean, to me, hopefully no Grammy people will see this. It's like getting old. I mean, it's like the same old, especially in the smaller categories. It's like my category is contemporary bliss. I mean, how many albums is Buddy Guy going to put out? Come on, dude. Like open a slot up for someone. Same with Clapton or Bonamassa or whoever, and Bonamassa is, new, but it's just, it's very unfair. But somehow, if you can get that one last vote and get in that top 5, it makes a difference, and that's all I have ever wanted, ever. And if it doesn't happen, it wasn't meant to happen,
Well, from the 50 to 80, then how do they narrow it down? How many?
Okay. It'll go from that to 5.
Oh, okay.
See, so when we
That's
get
the last.
our last Yeah, so there's two voting cycles. It's the first round ballot, which is November 7th, and it goes for 3 weeks. And then they take a couple of weeks to put everything together, or 2 weeks, whatever. You don't have much time to vote. Then they announce the top five. And then from the top five, you have about the same time, maybe a couple of weeks to vote. And then they announce it, when they announce the Grammys. So, and it's one of those things that I never thought that I could even possibly be there, be in the running when I was younger. And now after 49 years in the business and 13 solo albums and a number one on Billboard, I know I can. But again, it's that, you know,
Well,
it's
I'm thinking like a publicist.
yeah.
I kind of regret not going that route, being a publicist or manager or something. Um, but I'm thinking, do you guys like, how for the Oscars they take ads out in Variety, like a
Oh,
full ad.
they do that with this too.
How can you get people to listen to your song in the public? Like, how can you?
Well, the public doesn't matter at that point.
But these
It's
people that are listening, like, how can you
so
get
they're only Grammy members. What I'm doing, which
the voting?
a friend of mine who was actually part of the New Jersey scene for years and years and years and years, she, I want to say 10 years ago, maybe a little longer. I got a call from her. I'd never heard of her before. And she talked to people, and she was going to submit this fantastic record she did. It was a double album. She did it in New York City with all these amazing players. She's part of the Springsteen, thing. And she asked everybody how to do this. Okay. And everybody told her there are, cliques of people that know who they're going to vote for. They're going to do this. They help this person out. But she was, it was an Americana, and somehow she did it all correctly. And she made the top five in Americana her first time submitting to the Grammys against Levon Helm, against all these amazing people. Okay, so what happened was, it's this is like, it's like being in a war, The Americana community and the Grammy people went friggin' out completely nuts. She got death threats. It was like, how dare you come into our, it was
Break into the club,
unbelievable. Yep. It was
an outsider.
unbelievable. I mean, people sabotage stuff. She hired a publicist and she paid her a bunch of money. And she said, go screw yourself, bitch. It was unbelievable. She went to the Grammys. She didn't win. But what she got out of this was, now 12 years. She did a movie. She's written a book. She's been on TED Talks. New York, I mean, the New York Times have talked to her, Rolling Stone. It's been amazing. And I love her. She's really outspoken and screams, and her husband is, a lawyer. They lost their house in Sandy, and they live in Arizona now, or New Mexico, Arizona. So anyway, 2 years ago, she submits again. And, they put the announcement up on the day that it's going to happen. Oh, yeah. But before that, what the Grammy people did was they changed all the rules, everything. So they took this Americana category, which is everything, blues and 30, 40 different categories, put it all together. And now you had to vote in this thing and do this and do it this way. And we're going to have a committee that's going to decide who's going to get in, which is absolutely unfair because we vote. Who's the committee? How are they doing this?
Right.
They took one blues category. They just changed everything. But everybody screamed. They changed some stuff back. They got it a little bit better. A couple of years ago, she submits again. They come out with the first rounds, right? I saw it. I went, oh, crap. I didn't make it again. Rolling Stone and the New York Times and the Guardian and all these newspapers and magazines start calling her, going, "Congratulations, you made it again." And she went, "What are you talking about?" They said, "We had the list 5 days ago. You're on the list for Best Americana Single." And she went, "No, I'm not." She went,
Oh,
"Yes, you are." Every newspaper said, "Here."
oh,
And they sent her the lists because they released the list 5 days before under an NDA and they weren't allowed to tell anybody. And there's her name on it. So she calls the president of Grammy and goes, what the fuck is going on here?
right.
And he goes, "I don't know anything about this. What are you talking about?" And she sends him that. He goes, "Oh my God." And goes to the nominating committee and said, "What is happening here?" And they went, "Well, the last time she was in, it caused a ruckus. So we wanted to hold it off. And there were other people that wanted to be in that were mad that they didn't make it.
What? Uh,
So they put her in. They added 2 more submissions to it. And they got reamed for it
wow.
because, but it's politics.
Yeah. Everything's like that. Everything.
The world is politics. So
I just feel like if somebody hears that song, that is such a hit song. That is such a moving, phenomenal, perfect song that I want everybody to hear it.
I do too. Well, serious. I mean, Bluesville has played me for 24 years, since 2001. Right. I've always been on Bluesville with maybe one record they weren't quite happy with, but I've always been on Bluesville. And I'm very blessed because I've been on Bluesville for so long. I have direct connects to the people that I need to talk to. Everybody else has to wish and hope and pray and try to get something, or unless you're Buddy Guy or a label or whatever. Okay. So they had it right after the singles came out, and I talked to the people that I was supposed to talk to, and they said, we'll get to it whenever we can get to it. We'll listen to it and stuff. And then nothing happened. And then the album came out on July 18th. And I kept them posted, and they kept coming back going, "Okay, the label is, and this is what, and okay, blah, blah, blah." And I was, they weren't playing it. And I was like, just upset because not only is Sirius XM the place you want to get played, but it pays totally stupid. And like with a lot of artists, I know artists that are making $1 million a month on Sirius, and I make a bunch of money on it. And if they add it, and there are very few stations on Sirius that add new songs, very, very few. So it wasn't happening. And last week, 2 weeks ago, I sent another update to the people I'm supposed to send it to. And then last week, a friend of mine who's a disc jockey in Canada he tags me in a post on Facebook and says, "So I'm listening to Bluesville on Sirius XM, and look who comes up, my buddy Bobby Messano." And Jump is on his screen in his car. And I went, "What?" And I went, "Oh my God." And then I look at it, and my last name is spelled wrong. It's Messina or Messino. And I'm like, well, all right, whatever. So I have a company in Montreal. I'm not a lot of people use it. It tracks your royalties on satellite radio and a bunch of other stuff, mostly satellite, right? And I texted him. I said, "Dude, he played it this morning." He said, "No, he didn't." I said, "I'm looking at it." I sent him the screenshot. He went, "Oh, that's okay." So he texts me, he emails me back about 15 minutes later. He said, "Okay, I got it." He said, "Go check your dashboard. You'll see it." And I went, "Oh, okay, cool." And I checked my dashboard, and it says 1 play, and I said, "Cool, $37 a play." Pretty damn good, right?
Yeah.
And then I went to my month, and I went, "The hell is this?" It had been playing since August 16th with the wrong name.
Oh.
And they had played it 30 something times. And I had made $100,000. I had made a lot of money, and I said, "Oh my God!" So I sent XM a thing and said, "Please, can you change the name on it?" And they came right back and they said, "Oh my God, we're sorry," because sometimes they put the songs in manually, which is what they did. And he fixed it, and I just got $111 today for 3 plays.
Awesome.
And people are responding to it because they love the song. But what I was going to say to you is, I love that song too. But you want to know what I want? I want it to be the opening song for a movie.
I'll work on that.
Well, no,
Okay.
I have a company in London, John, that I work with, and I've got 90 songs in for 50 projects, and not just me. It's a placement place, but this guy is like my biggest fan, and I've got songs in for $1.6 million worth of movies and streaming. So, and Jump is in there with all of them. So that would make me so happy.
Me too. It's such a special song. Well, Trainwreck, I mean, there's so many good ones, but
I know
that one is just,
I
on
agree.
the whole ride. I mean, it just covers everything.
See, and Dennis wrote me the lyrics. Dennis and we started this 2 years ago. I'll just say to Dennis, "What do you got?" Or I'll tell him I need this or I need that. And he gave me the lyrics, and I tweaked them because he's the best lyricist I've ever seen in my life. And he can write a song in like 15 seconds, and they're intelligent and they're real. And I tweaked the whole thing. And then when I sang the demo of it, I played it on acoustic guitar and sang the demo. I started crying, and the only other song that's happened with is that song on the political song on Music and Other Sundries, "'Cause We Were Silent." It's very political, and I couldn't stop crying when I was doing it. But yeah, it's a special song.
It's amazing.
And to write one song like that is amazing, and not blowing my own horn, but I've written a couple of them that have been that heartfelt.
Well, and you just want the world to hear it. You want everybody to get to share in it, and give you, the accolades that you deserve. And
I don't even care about that. I just wanted to move someone.
Yeah.
I mean, I've told both of you the story about Sea of Hope, where it saved someone's life.
Yeah.
That's like, nothing can happen that's better than that. Nothing at all.
Yeah.
So, and the bummer is people in the States, at least, they don't listen. It's all ADD. It's all 3-second sound bites. Nobody listens. In fact, Juanita, who's my best friend and my ex-wife, we've been best friends for 40 years. She sent me a text the other day, and it was about a really great songwriter that had a bunch of stuff go on, and he was still songwriting, and he puts his stuff out there. Sent it to a publisher who he knew, and the guy came back and said, "This is some of the best music I have heard in years, and I can't use it because it's too good. We can't use songs that are good anymore. We have to use songs that are so dumbed down and stupid that nobody cares that you wrote this song about this little girl having her life saved by a fireman." And that's where we are.
Yeah. Yeah, that's too bad. Yeah. 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 Well, I think it's special, and I think if anybody that hears it is going to be just grabbed by it. I mean, you can't help it. If they stop though, like you said, you have to stop and listen and let it permeate your soul.
Yeah.
And that's what blues is. But I'm excited that you're nominated for the World Entertainment Award, so I'll be cheering for you for that. And then the Grammys, gosh, I just feel like if people just heard it, and that's you got to get them to stop and open up the file and listen to it.
It's not even hearing it; it's hearing it and being able to say, "Okay, you know what? I'm not going to vote for this guy that I voted for 100 times before." And John, I was going to tell you the Jeff Beck stuff. My tribute to Beck from Truth on it. is going over like gangbusters. People are coming back. The Jeff Beck group came back, and a bunch of people on that set and said, "Oh my God, this is perfect. It sounds just like Truth." Seymour Duncan said, "It sounds just like the Truth album." And I went, "That's what we wanted to do." I'm trying to get it to Rod Stewart, actually, because he sang on the Truth album.
Yeah, of course.
And I know some people that know Ronnie Wood, and I think he would love it too.
Was that the album that had Plinth on it?
No, that was the next album. Oh, you know what? Hold on. It did. Yeah, and it was Ronnie Wood on bass.
Yes.
It was Stewart on vocals. It was Nicky Hopkins, Mick Waller on drums, and Beck. Yeah, that had Plinth.
That was a very heavy song for that era.
Oh my God! Yes.
When you think about the fact that it was probably done on 4-track.
No, they were probably 8-track at that point. It was 66.
So, what
67,
year?
66, 67.
Come on, the Beatles was still on 4-track in 67.
Oh yeah, could have been 4-track. Yeah,
Okay. They didn't get 8-track until the White Album.
Huh.
So yeah, that had to be done on 4-track.
But
think about how heavy that would have sounded if they did it 10 years later.
Oh my God. And that was Mickey Most producing. He did the Animals, and he did
Donovan too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. He was so good,
He was sort of like Britain's Phil Spector, that was Phil Spector during the 60s.
Yeah, but it was his raunchy rock and roll.
Phil
Spector.
Much different than Spector, but he had this this corral of people,
and the aura of the whole thing was like, that's what we went for, when we recorded it, because there's out of tune guitars, and there's stuff like coming out of the left side and the right side, and it's like, and we did it as best we could to try to get clear. Adam, like I told you, he's a genius engineer, this guy. Oh my God, he's so good. And, how do you know that as a 40-year-old or a 38-year-old? How can you do that? And he went and listened to it and went, okay, I got it. I was like,
yeah, that's how. Some people have that, and we're fortunate that they're in that industry.
Yep. Yeah, I know.
Well,
cool.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about?
No.
And you can always come back.
I know. I love talking with you guys.
All right. Well, then we love you.
Yes. Yes.
And let me know when you head up. Let me know when you head up to Jersey.
Okay. Yeah, I'll probably coming up the 17th, so I'll let you know. But,
all right.
Kelly, I love you. You're so beautiful.
Thank you. Love you back. And I'm so excited about your song that it's getting some attention, and I hope it just keeps growing.
Kelly, he used to say the same thing to me. So
and
someone stole some of your books from me. I got to get some more.
When I see you.
Yeah, I'll trade you CDs.
Let me know what you need. All right.
All right. Okay. Love you guys.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.
All views expressed in this video belong to Kelly Nicholson, John D'Amore, and guests. These discussions do not represent the opinions of any entity whatsoever with which they have been affiliated now or will be in the future. The opinions expressed are solely theirs, and since they are critically thinking human beings, these views are subject to change, subject to revision, and subject to rethinking at any time. These conversations are not meant to be taken as advice and are only for the purpose of entertainment. All statements may be based on hearsay and not necessarily valid proof of any claims in this video. It is not our intention to teach or advise on any topic. Unless otherwise noted, all photos are public domain.
Thanks for watching A Slice of Life with Kelly and John.